Hi everyone, this is Johnnyonoes and I'm playing X3, the Albion Prelude, and in this Let's Learn video, I'm going to show you how to configure and use wings. Wings are very useful for grouping up ships so that you don't have to configure each one of your ships one by one. What we're going to do to start off, we're going to click on one of our Medusae here. We have 3 of them. We're going to click on this guy and hit C. Now, as you can see the command console and all the different settings that you're used to. You go scroll down some more, you can see wing control. If we go ahead and click this, add to wing, you'll get a selection of different colors you can pick from. So just go ahead and pick one. I'm just going to pick red. And now you can see that this ship, if I go into my property owned listing by hitting R, you can see that this particular ship is now considered in the red wing. When I click on this ship and hit C, to open up the command console, it can be a little confusing at first, but what you're seeing right here is the wings console. You're not seeing the ship's console anymore. To see a ship's console, you have to go down to ships currently in wing, click on the individual ship, and then say open ship's command console. And now we're back in the command console of that particular ship. To add other ships to the wing, the easiest thing to do is make sure that all the ships are in the same sector, because if they're in the same sector, they're going to be added to this list of add ships to wing. So if I click on 2 and 3, I can now look in my property listing, and all 3 of these ships are now part of a wing. And as before, if you select one of these guys and hit C, you're commanding the whole wing instead of that one particular ship. So you need to understand that there's like 2 layers of command consoles now that something is in a wing. What we're going to do is we're going to hit navigation, and we're going to hit follow. We're going to have this wing follow somebody. Let's just pick this guy here, Plutarch, Escort, Buster, Vanguard. So now that I've given the command, every single one of these ships in the wing are now doing what I've ordered only one ship to do. But if you were listening, you'd know that if I click C when I'm clicking on one of these ships in a wing, then you need to understand that they're all going to be commanded by any commands I give to this. It's not the ship console, but it's the wing console. We go to navigation again, follow, select my ship, and they're going to come on back. Another really useful way of using wings is to configure the ships. Like if you buy a lot of ships that have turrets or maybe missiles, you want to be able to select a whole wing to configure them instead of doing one by one. So let's say we want to configure the turrets for these fighters. We're going to configure them to be missiles only. Now, if I go into one of the ships in the wing, like I showed you before, open ship's command console, you'll see that it's listed as missiles only. I go into another one. Let's go to number 3. It's missiles only. If I go back into the shell, and then go back to fighters turrets and say missile defense, and then do the same thing as before. I'm not going to show all of them, but definitely just show one of them. Now the turrets are set up to be missile defense. Other useful selections you can use here are the different jump drive configuration. How many jumps, when are they going to resupply, all that good stuff, as well as the home base. So this allows you to configure ships in mass rather than one by one. So let me go over some useful commands. And I say useful commands because the AI for ships is not the greatest thing in the world in X3. Ships tend to, crash into each other. They're not the smartest tools in the shed, especially if you compare yourself to the AI. Like, a player is ultimately way better at doing things it needs to do than, say, an AI. Now, it could be really useful to, select an object and then click on it just once, and you now have the ability to set commands. Let's see if I can find one here. Now it looks like I need to have an enemy. Let's see. Here we go. So I just double clicked on this ship, and as you can see, there's an autopilot to attack as well as wings attack. So if you wanted to just send your wing after something, all you have to do is click on it and then say wings attack, and the whole wing will attack this poor guy that's driving around in his little civilian ship. Alternately, you can go into your property owned menu and hit C on one of the ships. You have a selection of navigation, combat, and special commands. This is all warranted that you have the proper systems installed on each of the ships. So I'm going to hit navigation, or actually I'm going to hit combat here. Now, one of the better options to pick, and attack all is good in some sense, but what you're running into is that you're basically forcing all of those ships to focus in on one ship. Now, the best way to use a wing is to kind of tether it to something. So I've got what is a TM here. Where is he? I have a TM, a magnetar. Now, the best way to use a wing, like I said, is to tether it to something. So if I tether this wing to that TM by hitting either combat, where I can go protect, attack target of, attack nearest, or I can go to navigation, where it's basically follow. That way you're tethering your smaller ships to a ship that's slower. And why that's important is because if you tether them to a ship that's faster than the average speed of the ships in the wing, then you're running into a situation where the ships really aren't flying together. They could be flying in a line just because they're fighting to get into formation, which they're never going to because that target ship is faster than the rest of the ships in the wing. So yeah, that's one of the more useful ways of configuring and building multiple ships at once. Well, by using the wing system. There are lots of other commands that you can use, but I tend to use, I either have a very large wing that's gonna go and patrol a sector. That way they're going about themselves and they're fighting stuff where they see it. You can also defend a position, which may be a little bit more useful if, say, you want to guard a gate and you don't want any Xenon or any other hostiles coming through that gate. So patrol, defense, as well as protecting and attacking the target of. Especially, this is great for selecting on you. That way you can have a very focused attack on a target that you yourself are picking. Now, you don't want to set this to an AI because the AI could be picking some weird, strange target that may not make sense, and the whole wing is going to go after a target that's not really going to help things. So protecting, attacking target, if it's you, patrolling, defending in position, all really good commands to use for wings. Now, another thing I want to explain is don't jump into wings too early. Like, I just have these Medusa here just to show as an example. Now, flying with a group of M3s is nice in the beginning of the game, like really, really early in the game when your combat rank isn't very high. But as your combat rank gets higher and higher, you're going to be running into packs that are much more difficult to fight. So I really only would suggest to seriously use wings when you may have a group of capital ships or M6s at the very least, or if you have a carrier to tether these smaller ships to. So as I said before, tethering your ships makes it very easy for your faster ships to stay together. So if you have a carrier, or maybe even like a TL, that could hold, like the elephant can hold up to 14 ships. So I hear on the forums like it's all about, maybe you might want to start with a poor man's carrier, which what a TL kind of provides for you. But as soon as you have a carrier, which I think is an M2 or M1, I think it's M1. I have to remember each of the designations. But once you have an M1 that's that has a bunch of ship space, that's your moment to really start outfitting a bunch of small fighters so that that carrier has a ton of fighters to be used for when there's combat against that carrier. So use the right commands, make sure to tether, and especially use larger ships to house your ships. Like I only have a TM right now, so I can only carry about 4 ships. And it's nice, but only having, a couple of M3s to work with, you're going to end up getting them killed pretty easily by either an M8 or actually anything. So I'm going to have this wing navigate. We're going to have them dock at their home base. So here they go, which is the TM. I'm in camera mode for some reason. Okay, so here they go. They're off to land on their base, their home base, which is a TM. So as you can see, this is a very useful function to configure your ships as well as give them simple commands. I would really highly suggest waiting until you have M6s or something that's bigger, because if you send a wing, even let's say you have like 20 M3s, there's still a high possibility that you're going to lose a couple, and having to retrofit a new ship can be very difficult and very time consuming. So refrain from using wings unless you want to configure stuff relatively quickly, or if you have the proper armament for the larger ships like M6s, M1s, M2s, as well as M7s. All right, folks, so this is Johnnyonoes playing X3, the Albion Prelude. If you have any further questions about the game, please leave them in the comments below. All right, folks, I'll catch you in the next episode, and thank you so much for watching.